So in the previous video, we actually finished off the YouTube activity class, as you can see on the screen now. But what we now need to do is create and set up the Google API key. And that's so that we can actually use the actual YouTube Android Player API. Because the YouTube Android Player API, and that's of course the file that we downloaded from Google's website, actually needs this Google API key to use it. And without that, it won't actually work. And Google actually used that to limit access. And so they can sort of keep tabs on individual applications and how much usage they're using. And in the case where it's using up lots of resources, they can charge you for it or do something else. So they give you a fair amount of free quota, certainly enough for this application, but it's their way of actually limiting access. And that's the reason they do it that way. So what we're going to do is now I'm going to transition over to the website and show you how to go about obtaining your Google API key. And then we'll come back and paste it into this code. So what we now need to do is go back to a browser to create one of those. So I'm going to go back to the browser. And I'm going to open a new tab in case we need that other one later. And I'm going to type console.developers.google.com. Console.developers.google.com. Press enter. And you'll need a Google ID at this point. If you haven't got a Google ID, it'll ask you to log in first. In this case, I've already got a Google account, so I was able to log in, and it's actually logged in automatically. So next we want to go through the process of creating a new project. So this is an existing one that's actually here now. And I've got a couple there, so I've been testing. But what I'm going to do is click on Create a Project and take you through the process of creating one from scratch. So click on Create a Project. It's asking you for the name, so we'll just call it YouTube. Doesn't really matter what the name is. YouTube Test Player. And notice how it's coming up with the name itself, but we're just going to click accept that as a default and click Create. Now notice down the bottom, we actually have to wait till that finishes. It can take a few moments to actually finish, and it'll actually just chug away. And that's obviously it's creating the basic sort of bits and pieces that it needs on a Google server. So it only took a few moments, as you can see there, so I can close it off. And then you want to make sure that you selected the right one here. And this was the one that I just created, so that's good. So next I want to click on APIs and Auth. And then I want to go down to APIs I should say. And this is a list of all the Google APIs that they enable access to. So all of these things in their own right will require a key. So once you understand how to create one for, in this case, for YouTube, it's a very similar process to do this for other Google services. But in this case, we're going to go down and use the YouTube Data API. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to click on Enable API. Because obviously we want to enable it, we want to actually use it. The next thing we now need to do is click on Credentials. Then we need to actually create this link between our application and Google so that they actually will work together. This brings up this little pop-up screen, so I'm going to click on Add Credentials. Then I need to click or select, I should say, API Key. Then over here to the right, I then need to click on Android Key. So this key, because the YouTube player will work in other platforms, they give you other options. But in this case, we want to select Android Key because, of course, we're using an Android application. So what it then needs, it actually needs this package name. So I open that out. It's looking for a package name and an SHA-1 certificate fingerprint. Now, to cut a long story short, this is just a way of linking what is unique about your application and giving that to Google so that they can link the two together, so they can sort of associate and say that, okay, this code is being executed from this location, which not so much from this location, but from this particular application. So what we're doing, and this is only a debug version anyway, so it's not like we're deploying it to a server or anything like that, so we're not going to have any problems with it. But the issue at the moment is this SHA-1 certificate fingerprint. Now this can be actually quite an annoyingly difficult, complex process to create, involving you having to go to a command line and typing some cryptic code to actually get this. And I actually give you some examples there of typing this key tool list -v key store blah blah blah, which we can do, and I've actually shown you how to do that elsewhere in the course, because there are some situations where you want to do that. But fortunately, there's a shortcut. So to create this information that they're looking for, we go back to our Android Studio. And we need to temporarily create a new activity. So I'm going to click on into the package name here, right click, new. This time I'm going to go down and click on select Google. Then I'm going to click on Google Maps activity. Click on that. And all the defaults are fine as they are. I don't need to actually change anything there because this is only a temporary class that we're creating that we're actually going to delete anyway. But what's happened is you can see it's still chugging way down the bottom right corner of the screen, but it's already got the information we need. And I'll copy this first part after the semicolon. But notice how it's got a long key, a semicolon, and then this other little name here. So if you actually go back and have a look what it's asking for, it's actually the package name. So we can paste that in there like so. Then the SHA-1 certificate fingerprint, if we go back and have a look at that, well, that's this little part that's before the semicolon. So don't include the semicolon and don't include any extra space, just that code as you can see there. And we go back and we actually paste that in. So at that point, that's actually all we need. So we can click on create and we should get an ID. And there's our ID. So that's how easy it is. So I'm going to copy that ID. I'm copying that so that we can actually paste it into our application. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go back to our Maps activity. And I'm going to delete that because we no longer need that. It was only just literally there to just grab that key. It won't hurt if you left it in there, but in this case I'm going to delete it. Delete anyway. And I'm going to go back here to YouTube activity. Okay, so now I'm going to paste that code that I've actually got back from Google, and I'm going to paste it here. So I'm going to actually paste it into the Google API key like so, and that's so that we can actually, again, use that and access the Google API key. Now, the next thing we need to do before we can actually start testing this application is we need to actually get a YouTube video ID so that we can actually replace this part here. So what we need to do is go to YouTube and find a video. So I'm just going to open up my browser again. Go to youtube.com and you can choose literally any video you like. I'm just going to type in one. I'm going to do a search for Tim Bichalka libgdx, but you literally choose any video. We need to actually open the video. So I'm going to open that first one. I'm going to pause it before it actually gets too far. And the actual part we want is the actual video ID itself. So it's the actual part that's actually after the question mark V equals. So it's this little part in this case that starts with the X. I need to copy just that component. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go back and paste it into the code. So again, you can choose any ID you want, so long as you've actually copied that part of the URL, you'll be able to play it. So I'm going to go back into the code and we're going to paste that in there. And we've now got a valid YouTube ID. So we've actually got so we've basically got an ID now for our video, and we've got the API both installed. Last thing we need to do is we need to actually go into the Android manifest file. And this is one of the changes that Android 1.4 has brought in. In the previous videos that I recorded for this application, we didn't actually have to follow this step in order to get it to work, but it seems that we do now. So I'm going to go into my Android manifest.xml file, double click that. And I need to actually put it in between where it's got activity and /activity, and it's actually for the YouTube activity. So we're making sure that we've actually chosen the right section. We need to put the code actually in there. And you can see if you look above, there's already one of those set up. There's an intent filter section already set up here for the main activity, but we're actually adding it to the actual next section, which is for the YouTube activity. So I'm going to come into there. I'm going to come down here just before the /activity and paste the code in like that. And we've now got the code we need in order to be able to get it to run. So now that we've actually done that, we should actually be able to run it. So at this point, we can actually go back to YouTube activity.java, and I can actually right click it. And I can come down here and select run. What I'm going to do is just wait until it finds my device, and then I'm going to actually switch on the recording on my Android phone so that we can actually see what it looks like on the screen. So we'll just wait until that pops up. Okay, so it's saying it's unauthorized, so I just need to allow access. So I'll just do that on my phone. We should see that change. You can see that's now changed to Motorola Nexus 6. That's my device. So what I'm going to do is, I'm actually on my device now. I'm going to start the recording software. I use some software called Mirror. And I'm going to start that recording, and I'm going to click on Start Now. So now that I've done that, I should now be able to run this application, and it should actually work on the actual device. And we've actually got an error here. So I'll just pause the recording software for a second, and we'll just see what we've done wrong here. I'm just going to actually try and do a rebuild, because I would have thought that would actually work. I can't see actually what the problem is there. And we'll try running it again. Okay, so looking at that error, I think what we forgot to do was actually add the permissions for the internet. So I need to go back to our Android manifest.xml file, and it doesn't look like we actually did that. So I'm going to actually do that. So we need to put a users permission, Android name equals, and what we want to check is internet. So I'm going to type INT, internet, and choose that one to give the application the ability to access the internet, which of course it needs in order to be able to download videos from YouTube. Make sure that when you're selecting this, that you do select it from the pop-up or type it exactly, because if you, for example, typed it like INTAEN, even just having the one lowercase n would actually stop it working. So it has to be typed exactly. And the best thing normally to do is actually just select it from the list and do the double click it. I already had something selected there, and then actually make sure that it's running and set like that. So let's actually go back now and actually try it again. So I'm just going to restart my recording program on my device so that you'll ultimately be able to see this running. Okay, and we'll go back to YouTube activity again. I'm going to right click, select run, and choose my device and click on OK. You can see the message now because I've swapped over to the application. You can see it come up and said started successfully or initialized successfully. Sometimes the first time when you run it, you won't actually see the video thumbnail appear, but we should still be able to play the video. So I'm going to actually click on play. Notice the toast message. I just skipped the ad. You see video started. You can see the toast messages actually appearing on the screen. Video is playing okay. And if I pause, video has paused. And you can see if I've started again. So you can see that it's obviously working fine. It's automatically coming up and actually, with those toast messages. And of course, those toast messages are actually from our code. So if I just switch back to the screen again, to Android Studio. So those messages, of course, are the ones ultimately that we added here. Click add now, video has started. Failed to initialize. We didn't get that because obviously it did succeed, but we also got the initialized YouTube player successfully message as well. So working fine. The first part of our application's now complete. And as you saw on the screen, every time an event is happening on the video, every time the ad was started or the pause was pressed, etc., the YouTube activity file automatically got a callback to the appropriate methods that we've created in YouTube activity, and we're able to do, in this case, just to display a toast message, but depending on the type of application you created, you could do all sorts of other things if that's what you wanted to do. So that's it for this video. In the next video, we're going to actually work on another way of showing videos. We're going to use the standalone player, and the standalone player uses the same library files, in other words, the same jar file ultimately, but there's different functionality in that. And one of the other features, or key features, is it enables you to play a playlist on YouTube. And a playlist is a group of different videos. But anyway, we'll see that and go through that functionality in the next video.